Hello Internet, and welcome to a new tutorial. I can't help myself but praise Bitwig and express how it made my life easier and my workflow way faster every time I could. And for sure, this doesn't mean other DAWs are bad, especially you Ableton guys. I know you, and I never forget my roots and I still love Ableton and use it from time to time. But despite that, I never stopped looking for ways to improve my workflow in Bitwig and look for those hidden gems that will make my life just easier in general. And this brings us to today's tutorial, where I want to show you 10 tips and tricks that will not only save you time, but will make your life way easier in Bitwig. But before we dive into the tutorial, if you'd like to support the channel, you can consider becoming one of my patrons or buy my presets. And if you like content like this, you can like, comment, subscribe, and even share it between your friends. This helps the channel a lot. Now, with that said, let's dive into this tutorial. Okay, so here we are in Bitwig, and let's say you're finishing your track. You have like over 100 audio and MIDI tracks going on. Everything is really crowded, and you're just sick of going up and down between those tracks. Or let's just say you're working on your laptop and you have one of these small laptops with like small screens, and everything is crowded on your screen, and you just want to focus, let's say, on the leads or the atmospheres or wherever. There's actually a way in Bitwig to isolate sections of the track so you can focus on working only on them. And this is actually the folder and subfolder section in here. See, we have these subfolders in here, and every subfolder is basically a group track. So let's say you want to work on your leads. So if you click on them, it will automatically isolate the leads from the rest of the track, and now you can go in details about any of these leads without the hustle of going up and down between the atmospheres and like watching the whole track in front of you. And just like, sometimes it just gets really overwhelming watching all of these tracks in front of you. And this is one really easy way to just isolate a section of the track, work on it, and then you click on this little backspace in here or like arrow thing, and we're back to the full view of the track. Pretty easy. Thanks, Bitwig, for that. Tip number 2 is Midiclip stretching. So we're all used to stretching audio files like this one in here. We just hit Alt and we stretch it, and we'll create these really weird textures from, time searching an audio clip. But did you know that we can do exactly the same thing with MIDI clips? So let's say I have this MIDI clip in here, and if I'll hit Alt, I just doubled it in time. And if I'll do the other way around, I've just made it 2 times longer. And I think that this is a really nice way to play with the timings of these MIDI clips and actually create some really nice variations. Sometimes it'll be just chaos, but sometimes you'll just create some really nice variation out of them. Or if you just want to, double it in time really quickly without the hustle of going inside the MIDI clip and moving everything around, you can just hit Alt, double it in time. And I think this is really nice. Now, up to the next trick. Tip number 3, moving things inside audio and MIDI clips. So we have this audio clip in here. It's playing this sequence, but we don't like the sequence. And we know that we've bounced out more than these 8 bars that it's playing. If we double click on it, we can see that there's more to that. So what we can do in here, instead of like going inside of the MIDI clip, looping this section, moving the cursor in here, what we can do, we just hit Alt Shift and we move things around till we find the sequence that we like. And same goes to MIDI clips. So if I'll hit this MIDI clip in here, again, Alt, Shift, and I can move things around the MIDI clip. And this is one way to make your life way easier in Bitwig. And by the way, same thing goes for Ableton. I'm pretty sure it works for the audio clips, not sure if it works for the MIDI clips though. Now moving to tip number 4. Tip number 4 is about slicing. So in Psytrance, we record these really huge chunk of audio that then we will slice, mute and unmute, parts of it that will create basically the question and answer and, the whole sequence. So there's a really quick way to do so in Bitwig. We can either just right click on the clip in here, slice and place. We can set it to bars, half bar, eighth of a bar, whatever you like, and voila, it has been sliced. And now we can go about activating or isolating the stuff that we want to play to create our sequence. Or we can actually select the chunk of audio that we would like and just hit Control E And now it sliced it for us. And we can go the same thing about like any piece of that audio. And this helped me save time in so many ways you can't even imagine. Now, up to the next trick. Tip number 5, adding shortcuts to the toolbar in here. So check this out. If I'll click on my audio clip in here, I already have a shortcut to reverse it and to bounce in place. And these shortcuts I've actually added by clicking on the clip in here, for example, and let's say I want the scale each to 50%. I can hit on this little pin icon, and now I have a shortcut for that on my toolbar. And this is another way to make your life easier and just faster in Bitwig. Now, up to the next trick. Trick number 6, inserting silence. So let's say I have this break part in here and I want to move it, so I'll extend the drop part that I have in here. So instead of just highlighting everything like this, moving things around, which can be a little bit buggy and hard to deal with if the project is really big and the computer is slow, what we can do is just highlight the break part, hit Control I. Now, Control I is the shortcut I've programmed. You can program whatever shortcut you like, but let's hit Control I, and voila, we have free space for us to work with and extend this drop part. Now, let's say I want to just duplicate this drop part in here without destroying the break and like just hustling around, moving things around, right? What we can do is just hit Control, Shift, and D. And now Bitwig nudged everything to the right and just created a duplication of this drop part in here that we've highlighted. And this is just another cool trick to save you time and make your life easier in Bitwig. Now moving to the next trick. Trick number 7 is the interactive manual of Bitwig. So let's say you're working with one of Bitwig's devices and you don't know what the knobs are doing. You can click on the device, hit F1, and now you have this interactive kind of manual where it's not only that everything is explained pretty well on here, but let's say you move knobs in here, they actually move in your device. And this is a really cool way to actually learn and experiment with Bitwig without the hustle of going back to the manual and experimenting with things. You can just do it right in here. And I think this is awesome. Now moving to the next tip. Trick number 8, the Masterchannel trick. So let's say we're finishing working on this track and I want to add some effects to the leads channel in here, and my CPU is really struggling, you know, like it's the final stages of the track, there's a lot of stuff going on, you know, the CPU is struggling, or I just want to clean things up and I just want to have like an overview, like a general view of the waveform of the leads in here. What I can do is actually check this out in Bitwig. We can right click in here, hit show master track content in here, right? So now we have nothing. Let's open the folder in here and let's create a clip in here. I'll just highlight this part in here, hit Control J to consolidate basically. And now what I can do, I'll right click in here and I'll just ask it to bounce in place. Now check this out. So now what we have is a bounce of all of these leads with all of the effects that we have on them, right? So we can actually deactivate all of these channels. Now, for sure, I just did like a small portion of the leads, but you can do it for the whole leads section of the track. And now we can just deactivate everything because we have this bounce. And if we close it, we'll just see one waveform for the whole thing. Now, we didn't only make things easier on our computer, but the arrangement is just way easier to read this way. Now, imagine doing it for everything, right? And again, another way to make life easier in Bitwig. Now, moving to the next trick. Trick number 9, track versus clip. So I'll demonstrate that on a Midi clip because it's just way easier. So we have these Midi clips in here, right? So if I'll double click on one of these clips, as you can see, we have the clip and we have the track. So the clip in here will just give us an overview of our MIDI clip. But if we hit track, we will see all of the MIDI clips on that track. Let's double click in here. And now what we can do, let's say I want to add some of these notes in this MIDI clip. I can just copy them and paste them in here. And now we have them on that MIDI clip. And we can do exactly the same thing for audio. And again, I just don't know what I can tell you. It just makes life easier, man. Now let's move into the 10th and the last trick. Trick number 10, the EQ plus reference input. So let's say you're trying to EQ a couple of material or a couple of audio signals, basically, that are clashing with each other, whether that's a lead, an atmosphere, whatever. And you want to have a representation of the spectrum of both audio channels so you can EQ them correctly. There's actually a really cool way to do so inside of EQ+. See, in here we have the reference input in here. So here I'm on my kick and bass channel, right? And this is the kick channel. What I can do in here, in the reference, I'll just open it, go to the kick and bass, set to the bass, pre or post. Let's set it to pre for now. And now if I'll hit play, we will see both the frequency spectrum of the kick and the bass. Check this out. See the violet one? This is our bass line. And the gray one is the kick. And now we can actually EQ those kick and bass while looking at the frequency of the other one. So we won't make them clash between each other. And for sure, this goes for everything. And yeah, with this is the end of this tutorial. I really hope you've liked it. I really hope you've learned something new. See you next time.